Well, good Sunday afternoon. Um, as we probably all know, today is Father's Day. So I want to talk a little bit, I guess, give a tribute to fathers today. And especially, I want to talk a little bit about my dad. Um, my dad got married at 19 years old. And 9 months later, I was born. He was 20. So he became a dad at 20 years old. Now that's a pretty young age to become a dad, but he did the best he could at that time. And I tell you what, my dad, in my eyes, has always been a hero. Most of you know, if you listen to my videos, that my relationship with my mom was anything but good except for the last year of her life. But my relationship with my dad was always good. He would always remind me, even as an adult, even though he didn't agree with my lifestyle, he didn't agree with what I was doing spiritually and all that, he would always tell me, he said, "Paul, I might not agree with what you do, but you're my son and I love you." He never let me doubt his love for me. And, as a child growing up, we would do a lot of things together. He would take me with him just about every Saturday, when I was 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. Him and I would go to town together on Saturday morning, get the groceries, buy the groceries. We would go past Grandpa's house. We would always stop at Grandpa, and which was his dad, and we would spend half an hour there. My dad and him would visit, and I would play around. My grandpa had a tack shop or harness shop. He made harnesses for horses, halters, worked on saddles, did all of that. And I always loved the smell of leather because of that. And, many times in the summertime, I would go over to my grandparents' place and spend days, day after day, in Grandpa's harness shop. And I'll never forget, he had those real little tack nails that is used for harnesses. And I found a piece of leather, and I was at his workbench, and I had these little nails and a little tack hammer, and I was pounding these nails into a piece of leather. And I'll never forget, all at once I hear this voice over my shoulder, "Paul, what are you doing?" And I told him, I said, "Well, I'm playing. I'm pounding these nails into the piece of leather here." And he goes, "That's a waste of money. You don't stop that, I'll kick your ass." And he meant it. That was the last time I was playing with nails. But Grandpa was a great example of a father, and so was my dad. My dad took a lot after him. My dad was very, very kind, very loving. He always had a smile on his face. Now, was he perfect? Hell no. We all know that. He wasn't perfect. One of his downsides was that he would let things build inside him, and then he would explode. Or when he went to discipline us children, he would wait till he was angry, and then he would discipline us. But those are things that you can overlook, because he never beat us. He would whip us, but he would never beat us out of anger. But anyway, he was a great example of what a dad should be. He was always my hero, and so I wanted to take just a little bit of time and say happy Father's Day to anybody listening to this, any fathers listening to this, any uncles, any brothers that have stepped in and taken the place of a dad in a home that maybe the father was missing or decided to walk away. We don't know the circumstances. There's no judgment. But again, happy Father's Day. And I'm going to post a tribute to all fathers that I came across that just really spoke to my heart. And so even though my dad is no longer here, he passed away in last of April of 2006. So it's been 19 years that I lost my dad. He shows up in my dreams, not every week, but 4, 5, 6 times a month. And it's so special. It's heartwarming. And yes, I do miss, even though he was Amish, the later years, I could pick up the phone and leave a message for him and call, and he would call back. The thing that I probably miss the most is his smile. He had the most kind, beautiful, gentle smile. And another thing that I miss, he was always either whistling or humming or singing. That was his pastime, and he taught me so many things in my life. When we lived in Honduras, we had a cabinet shop, and he taught me patiently how to build cabinets. And when we lived in Indiana, on the farm, I'll never forget, he worked with a pole barn, built pole barns for a company. We had dairy, we had chickens, but then he also on the side rebuilt small engines. And when there's 8 to 10 children in a family, you do what you have to do to make enough money to support that family. But there was an engine that somebody gave him as an exchange for payment for some of the work that he had done. And I asked my dad, I said, "Dad, do you mind if I fix this engine?" And he goes, "No." So I took everything apart, changed the parts that needed to be changed, put everything back together again. And there was a couple of bolts laying on the counter, on the workbench. And he goes, "Where did those bolts go?" And I go, "Well, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't find any place for them." And he just looks at me and he says, "Were they part of the engine when you took it apart?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Take it back apart, find out where those go, and put it back together again." And that's how he was. He was very patient. He loved helping people, and he was always, when it came to to teaching me something, he was a great guy for that. And one other thing that I want to mention, I've always been creative. I built my own go-kart. Forgot to put brakes on that. My dad thought that was the funniest thing in the world. But what was even funnier than that, we had a chicken house that was maybe housed 30, 40 chickens. Those were our own private chickens. We also had a large chicken house that housed 7,000 chickens. But anyway, this little chicken house had a shed roof, which, if you don't know what a shed roof is, it's a slanted roof, slanted one way. And I had decided that I'm going to build me an airplane, and I'm going to fly off of this shed roof, and I'm going to fly. And I built it out of wood. I think you probably already know what I'm going to say. And my dad let me go. He didn't say a word. Occasionally he would ask how my airplane's going. I said, "Well, it's almost done." And I took it up on this building, on this chicken house. I sat in it, and I rolled off, because I just knew I was going to fly when I take off. But as you can probably guess, I took a straight nosedive down into the ground. And my dad was standing there watching me. He didn't say, "Paul, don't do it." He didn't say, "You're going to hurt yourself." He let me do it. And he literally got on the ground and laughing, belly laughing like I've never heard him laugh. He just thought that was the funniest thing in the world. But what I appreciate so much about my dad is he allowed my creativity without interfering. He allowed me to figure it out. And then when it was done, like with that airplane, then he goes, "Do you understand why that didn't fly?" And so we talked about it, and he told me, and he showed me why that airplane would never fly. But anyway, that was the kind of dad that he was. So, Dad, I miss you. I love you. I know you are wherever you choose to be, wherever you want to be. And so anyway, happy Father's Day.